Good afternoon. This is Clear Process Solutions WebTips. So I want to welcome you. We are going to discuss today about Winshuttle and how to easily place a form request on hold. My name is Elisa Vadla, and I'm a senior process developer for Clear Process Solutions, mostly working on the solution care desk. And I came across recently a need for a customer who wanted to be able to place a form request on hold. And I'd like to share that with you today. So we're going to go through this quick little video. Hopefully it'll be pretty quick and teach you how we implemented this. So have you ever been asked how you can temporarily place a request on hold? This functionality is not made available through out-of-the-box options that Winshuttle has, like cancel and force approve and force reject. There's no way to place a request on hold. And so we looked for different ways to do this and to keep it as simple as possible. And we found a way, and we're going to share that with you today. So I'm going to demo this functionality to you, but if you've submitted a request or a person has submitted a request, and then for some reason you need to place that request on hold so that no more approvals can be done, like the workflow is just placed on hold, basically is what we're trying to do. And then an administrator can come in and release that. So we're going to have an administrator that's going to place it on hold. And then at any given point in time, an administrator can release that hold. And that's what I'm going to show you here. So let's talk about some of the key items. In order to implement this in one of your existing forms and workflow solutions, you must be using what we call the process status view. And this is something that does come out of the box with the Winshuttle Composer tool that allows you to have this view that people see when the workflow is in process. And so if I'm not assigned to a current task and I go and open up one of the forms, I will see the process status view. So it's not my task, but I can see the data on the form. It's all in read-only form, and I can at least view the data. So that has to be the first item we have. The second thing we have to do is we have to set up a SharePoint list with the administrators that will have the ability to place the request on hold. The next thing we need to do is capture that list of administrators in a repeating table on our form. And then whenever the process status view is opened, we will check to see who is opening the request. So what we'll do is we'll bounce that current user control against our admin list to see if the person that's viewing the status view is one of our admins. If it is one of our admins, then we will actually show this administration hold and release group so that administrator can take action. If it is not one of the administrators, then we won't even show the hide and hold release group to that user. And then the next thing we have to do is we have to, when our approver goes in and opens their task to work it, because they don't know it's on hold, then we need to notify them that this request is on hold and also hide the action buttons so they can't approve it or reject it or actually work the request. So the next thing I'm going to do is demo this for you. So let me get my list up here. And we are going to walk through how this works as the end user would see it. Once I've done that, then I'll show you the behind the scenes code that I had to put in my solution in order to make this work. So as an administrator, I could open up any form that is in process, and I'm going to play the role as the administrator here. So Elisa will be the administrator, and then I'll have another person play the approver step. So I have 2 requests here. You'll see them right here. There are actually 2 processes running. And if I look at the solution list, you can see this is my solution demo on how to place a request on hold. I've got 2 requests created Monday and Tuesday, and they both are in the status of waiting for approval. So we also have to be monitoring our status of our request in what step in the workflow they're in. And right now we're waiting for approval. So I'm going to go back over here, and as an administrator, I'm going to take the one created here on the 5th, this first one, and I'm going to place it on hold. So as an administrator, I'm using the new web parts, and I'm going to just click on it, and that's going to open it up, and it's going to open up the status view. But right in the beginning, he's checking and he finds out that I'm an administrator. So let me show you my administrator approval list. Right now, I just have a list created. I'm using the admin email, and I've got 2 people that are able to be an admin, myself and Lance. And I have that list setting set, just if you want to see that. I have it set as it's a person or group, and the field that I'm showing is the email address. So let's go back and look at that. So you can see there's only one field in the list, and it has the person's name in it. So when I opened up that form, here's my form here, he said, who's opening this form? Oh, well, it's an admin. It's Elisa. So I'm going to let her see this hold and release group that has a hold button in it. So what I can do is click this button right here, and it tells me the request will be placed on hold, and then this form will save and close. So when I click this OK button, it's going to go ahead and close the form and set that item on hold. So let's go back to the solution list here, and I'll do a quick refresh. And you can see that now the status for the one created on the 5th is on hold. So that means if my approver tries to go and open this form, they won't be able to process that. So let me show you that. I've got another window out here, right here. And this is my WS Dev user, and he has this task in his task list. So he's going to go ahead and perform the actions that he thinks he needs to do on this request. So let me go ahead and open it up. Okay, so what it's doing now is it's going to open this request and say, the status is on hold, so I'm not going to let you process this request until an administrator has released it. So I go, oh, okay. So I just click OK. And then I can just back out, go back, and leave the page because I can't make any changes on that form until it's been released. So that's the admins or the approvers view. So let's go back and look at this here. So now I'm going to show you actually how we did that. So we already looked at the admin list that we had to create with whoever is going to be an admin and can place something on hold, you will add their name to this list. Now let's look at the actual solution. So I'm going to have got Composer over here opened up, and I've got my solution here, and we're going to walk through some of the required pieces of code that I had to implement here. So the first thing I'm going to go is over to my forms, and I'm going to look at my originator view. And in my originator view, I had to use what we call a query control. And that query control allowed me to go read that admin approver list and load it up in a repeatable table. So you can see here, I've created a connection. This is just a data connection to the list that I'm using. Wait for this to come back. And it thinks. There it goes. And so I have a connection to my approvers, and I'm bringing in my email. So I'll just cancel that. And I have no really query here. I'm just going to bring them all back. I'm going to have this run at end. So the query is going to run when the form is submitted, and it's going to pull out the email address from the list and put it in this repeatable table. So if I have 2 admins here, you'll see 2 admins. If I have 5 admins, it'll be 5 admins here. So that's the first thing I had to do on my originator list. I also had to have, again, I mentioned that, a field to track my status in. And I also had to have a temporary status field. And that is so that I can track the status that I was in when I go to put it on hold. So I have these 2 new fields that I've made sure I'm using. Let's look at the approver. Let's go to the status view. This is the view I said you had to be using. It is actually a view that comes out of the box. Over to properties. It's called the status, the process status view. You'll see it right here in your list. And I'm using that view. And in that view, I also have some rules. I have a rule that run on load here, and let's take a look at those 2 rules. And what those 2 rules do for me is they either show this group if I'm an administrator, or they don't show this group if I'm not an administrator. And then the second rule will read the status of my request. And if it's in hold or not in hold, it'll show whichever button needs to be shown based on the opposite action that might need to be performed. So, for example, if my request is in the hold status, it'll show the release. And if I'm in waiting for approver, it could show the hold status button. So those are the 2 rules that I did there. And then I also have some rules underneath, some actions going on underneath each one of these buttons in this group that I created. And let's take a look at that. They're both Java scripts. One is called set hold, and we'll look at that JavaScript here in a second. And the other one is a release hold. So whenever somebody clicks this button, it runs this JavaScript function, and performs the actions it needs for release or for hold. Okay, before we go over and look at that JavaScript, let's look and see what we did on the approval view. The approval view, we had to put a rule to run on load that says, hey, if this is on hold, don't let this person take any action, hide the action group, which is these buttons here, and pop up a message that says, hey, this currently is on hold. And that will stop our approver from moving this request forward. So that's an important piece. We did make, this was already in our workflow, but I want to show you my workflow. We are capturing the status of the request here so that we can populate that we're waiting for approval. And then we'll update that status to on hold when we place it on hold, or we'll revert it back to waiting for approval when we release it. So that was made sure that that piece of code is in there too. And then if we go to the solution tab, we can look at our JavaScript. Let's take a look at that. These are the 2 functions that I created, the set hold and the release hold. And really what it does is it grabs that current status and stores it in my temporary status. Then it updates the status to on hold, and it alerts the user that this has been placed on hold and the form will save and close. And then it actually does a save and close on the form. And the release is doing pretty much the same thing, but in reverse. He's taking the temporary status and putting it into the status, and he's alerting that it has been released from hold and it's going to save and close, and then it saves and closes the form. That is all the code that I added to this solution to make this functionality work. So let's look one more time. Now that you've seen the code, let me demo it to you one more time. We have this one on hold, so I'm going to take the one dated on the 6th and place it on hold. So as an administrator, Elisa is an administrator. She can go in here. She can open this form up. The status says, yep, Elisa opened the form. So I'm going to give her the hold button. She can place this on hold. You actually can see I've got my list of my repeatable table here still visible. Normally that would be hidden, but so you can see who is an administrator. So I'll go ahead and do hold. Tells me it's placing it on hold. I hit OK. It saves and closes the form. And now if I go look at my solution list, both of my requests now are on hold. So now my approver cannot release or move either one of these forward. Let's go look at that really quick. So if the person goes over here on 6, and this is my approver, WS Dev, he goes in here and it's up, you can't do that. So he says, okay, he backs out, and he knows he can't process that. So let's go and release one of these. We'll go over here, and I'll just release the one on the 5th. So I'm going to open up the one on the 5th. You'll see now it knows that it hides the hold button and it only gives me the release button. So now it's going to tell me it's going to be released from hold, saves the form. We'll go back to our solution list just so that we can refresh it. You can see now this one is waiting for approval. And now we'll go play the approver step. And when we go into the approver step, pick the one on the 4, the one on the 5th, and we will approve it. This time we should be able to actually go through. Now we have our buttons. We can approve, eject, or cancel. Go ahead and just do an approve, and that moves that one on. So let's recap what we just covered. So the code that was required was to create a list to manage our administrators that can place items on hold. We need to update our originator view using a query control to capture the administrator's emails address in the repeatable table. We must have a status field and a temporary status field to track the current status and set the status in the workflow. On the process status view, we need to add a group. And this is going to be just a group in our form that will hold our administrator hold and release buttons. We need to add JavaScript function to do the set hold and the release hold. And then we will call these functions for each of the appropriate buttons that are pressed. On the process status view, we also need to add 2 unload rules that will show the administrator hold group, and the other one that will show the right button based on the status. And then finally, we need to go to our approval view and add an onload rule that will remove the action button when the request is on hold and show the message. So the user that's approving it knows why they cannot move the request forward. And that was it for our demonstration. If you're not familiar with Clear Process Solution, by all means, visit us on our website. We have our website here listed, clearprocesssolutions.com, or you can always reach us at info@clearprocesssolutions.com. And you can subscribe to our WebTip channel and reach out to us if you need any assistance in making the complex simple. Thank you.